What is happening, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's gonna be similar to what we did with the training review for the off season, but this time we're gonna do a physique review for the off season. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at my photos from when I started the off season to where they are now. I've made some side-by-sides for each pose, so we can exactly look at start to now, where things have gone, what's changed, what's improved, maybe what's not improved, and just kind of overly assess things. Probably my worst critique, so you might hear me bashing myself quite a bit, but I do also think that a good amount of improvement has been made across all areas of my physique, but there are some certain ones that have definitely made more improvement than others, and we'll talk about that as we go through things. So this is actually week 1 of my mini cut. So I'm filming this on Monday, May the 3rd. And this past week I started my mini cut a week ago. So week 1 down, I lost 3 pounds basically on the dot, went from 197.7 to 194.7, and that was from Friday to Friday, and actually this morning I was 192.7. so things are moving very quickly, which is exactly what we wanted. I won't go too deep into all the mini cut details right now, we'll save that for another video, but we did take a good chunk of calories right off the hop. About 800 calories, which puts me around 3,200, I believe, which I'm just keeping consistent across the board. There's no, low days, high days, nothing like that. I'm not doing any programmed cardio. I walk the dog every day, sometimes twice a day, so that is my only active expenditure outside of training. We're only changing diet right now, and that saw pretty much most of that calorie drop came from carbs, because my carbs were very, very high, and I'm still eating a little over 400 grams of carbs a day, so it's not like I'm starving myself at all. But the drop, with the mini cut, you can be a little bit more aggressive, and I'm not getting to a point where I should feel that bad at all. I talked to my coach about this, and it's interesting. You're going from a place in the off season. So for me, at 197, heaviest I've ever been. I'm only 5'7", so that's quite a bit of weight on my frame. So I was feeling, the lethargic, exhaustion, just the overall the weight, if that makes any sense. So now going down, the end target is somewhere between 175 to 180, so somewhere around 15 to 20 pounds, and that's definitely not a small amount of weight, but what it's going to basically do is take me from a spot where I feel kind of meh to a place where I feel quite good. For me, 175 to 180 is a pretty good sweet spot. Training performance is good, I feel better, I'm a little bit leaner, and just across the board, most things just feel quite a bit better. So that is obviously a positive. So I shouldn't see any detrimental effects on my training. As we get deeper into the mini cut, I may have to switch around macros a little bit around my training if I feel training performance drops a little bit, but definitely not anything to worry about right now. So anyways, let's get into the physique assessment. So I'm going to move over a little bit. So I just don't want to hit her. He's laying on the floor. So I'll put the photos right here. So I actually have my computer here as well, so I'm gonna look them up and I'll post them as I'm looking at them. So first photo we're looking at is front double bicep, so the first mandatory pose. Now, this is probably one of my least favorite poses. So you can see on the left hand side where I started, this was the start of my off season. We called off prep and I was in the 160s here, I believe around 163, 165. So on the right hand side, my current look, end of off season look, basically 30 pounds over that weight there on the left hand side. So my front double bicep, I feel like with a front double, you need really good arms to make the pose look good. Obviously, the V taper, you need good flaring lats, sweeping quads, and I would say honestly from my armpits down, I don't dislike the pose, but my arms, I never cared for it, and I don't know, it just wasn't something that I liked. So looking at the current look, obviously, you know, things are softer. The main thing that jumps out at me is my quads. They look quite a bit thicker. You know, my inner thigh, it looks like there's quite a bit there. And even my arms. I did spend a good chunk of this off season trying to bring up my arms, and this actually, when I took my photos at 195, my arms kind of looked a little bit better. I think they just look a little bit less defined here, a little softer. So I think when I start to lean down a little bit, they're gonna continue to look better. And I'm actually doing a bit more arm volume now during this mini cut, just to see if things can continue to improve. Even though I'm in a bit of a deficit, I still have a lot of tools at my disposal with regards to nutrients. So I'm hopeful that I can continue to make a little bit of progress even while seeing body fat come off. So front double, looking at it, I'm hopeful it's improved because it's probably the pose I hate the most. You know, looking at my legs, like I said, I think they've gotten better. And as I get leaner, my waist will come in a bit as well, which will definitely accentuate the pose a bit more. So that's my take on the front double. So first one, we're off to an okay start. Front lat spread. So we'll pop that up on screen. This pose looks definitely a lot better when I'm leaner. It just, like, when I'm off season, I just look a little bit more rounder, and not in a good way. I just a little pudgier, I guess you could say. But when I look at this pose, it's one of my favorite poses to hit. When I am lean, I think I have a good shape. When I do hit it, my lats pop out. You know, my waist gets very, very small when I diet down. And, you know, my quads, not a weak point, and I think they've definitely gotten better. Looking at this comparison here, I think my quads definitely look thicker, my adductors look thicker. My chest has never been an overly weak point. I'm interested to see how it looks as I do get leaner. In the current look, you can see that my chest almost is not as pronounced because there's more body fat around it. So as you get leaner, you know, you can see on the left-hand side, my chest pops a bit more just because there's less body fat around it. But I don't think it's any weaker now compared to the first ones. And honestly, looking at my shoulders, it looks like my shoulders might be a bit better. But I know on my tattooed side, the shoulder on my tattooed side in the current look, you can see is almost dropped a little bit. I've been dealing with, like, this pec and my shoulder blades, so I need to go get that ironed out because I know, you know, trying to hit those poses, it was a little awkward with that shoulder. So I definitely need to get that ironed out well before prep starts, because you know, the more posing practice that goes into play, you want to make sure you're hitting the poses accurately. You don't want to be hitting you know, the pose incorrectly time and time again because, you know, your shoulder's jacked up in my case, right? You want to make sure you're hitting things properly. So that is something to definitely pay attention to. But front lat spread, I'm quite pleased with. So going into some side poses now. So we'll start with side chest. Again, a pose that I'm quite happy with for the most part. You know, my arms definitely from the side look like they've improved quite a bit. I'd say the biceps look thicker. You know, even like my forearm actually looks a little bit thicker, which I didn't notice upon first inspection. So happy with that. Chest from the side, it looks like there's actually a bit more, which is obviously good. And then looking down at my legs, again, a common trend, my legs do look thicker. You know, the quad, even my hamstring a little bit. I think my hamstrings need more work, honestly. Looking at my photos and stuff, I think I need more of a hamstring drop from the side, and I think in the back they looked okay, but from the side, I think we can get a little bit more thickness in the leg, and you know, something to work on, right? That's kind of the name of the game of bodybuilding. There's always something to work on. My calves in the side pose look decent there, and actually when it comes to my calves, they look good from the side. I get some nice lines down the side of my calf, but from the back, They don't look that great, but looking at my comparison photos, I do think I've made some progress. So I have been training them 3 times a week, so hopefully that has paid off. So side chest, pretty happy with it. We'll go to side tricep. Now you'll see on the start of the off-season photo, my stance is a little bit different. I was playing around with that kind of split stance that actually a lot of athletes in the UK do. I like the look if it can be pulled off right, and I'm still not sure if it's gonna be something that I pursue when I do compete. I'm not sure how I like it compared to just the standard, same stance as your side chest. But looking at the side tricep pose, the biggest, I guess, deterrent to where things are is my midsection, just because I'm 30 pounds heavier, so there's obviously a lot more body fat around the midsection, so it kind of takes away from the entire pose. And my triceps are another area that in the off season they just don't look that great, but in the photo on the left where I'm leaner, they pop pretty good. So I'm hopeful that when I diet down again, they are a little bit improved, because your triceps make up most of your arms. So having big triceps is kind of like having big shoulders. I don't know if you can have too much. So that's kind of my take on the side chest. And I think it's one of those poses that probably looks not great when you're in the off season, and it'll look a lot better when I do lean down a little bit. So yeah, that's my take on the side tricep. Is okay. Going to the back. So this is where I needed the most work. So we're starting with back double bicep, and looking at these photos, I'm happy and I'm not happy. I think, let's start from the ground up. So like I said, I think my calves have come up a little bit, and they're an area too that when I lean down, they will pop more, like my triceps. But I do think they've improved. My legs, I think definitely have thickened up quite a bit, and my glutes as well. Working up my back, I'm happy when I get a little bit leaner. I think as I kind of crept up to my top end weight, my back just started to not look that good, just because it was just starting to look softer, right? So I'm hopeful that when I get to like 188 to 190, I'll kind of get a better perspective of how my back has improved. But looking at the photos, I think my shoulders have improved. I think there's definitely more thickness in my mid back and my lats. My traps, maybe, we'll see. And actually, this is kind of a good example here. I'm actually in the process of removing my back tattoo, which I did post a video about. I've talked about it on Instagram, but for those that are maybe unaware, I'm actually in the process of removing that back tattoo. And the plan is to hopefully have it pretty much gone by the time I compete again. But unfortunately, the whole virus has screwed that up a little bit. But anyways, and you can see on the left to the right, it's faded quite a bit, which is good. That's a good thing. So +1 for back tattoo being better. But yeah, back double is work in progress. Where I'm a little bit more happy is my back lat spread. So we'll pop that up on screen. My back lat spread, definitely, lower body the same, right? You got the same stance and everything like that, but I think I've put a lot more density and thickness in my back lat spread specifically. I think all through the mid back, flaring out through my lats, I think there is quite a bit more muscle there, so I'm very excited to see how that looks when I diet down. It's a pose that I like. I don't know, I just like hitting the front lat spread as well, like we talked about earlier. I think the back and front lat spread are just really good poses when you can, hit them properly and have plenty of physique to show. So I'm excited to see how this looks when I diet down again. Coming to the front, so the last 2 poses, ab and thigh first, and again, this is a pose that as you get leaner, it will continue to look better. Very much in the off season, the abs continue to dissipate. I'm actually, quite impressed that I have some semblance of abs at the weight that I was there at 197, because, again, being 30 pounds heavier, but you can see through the lower abs, you know, the love handles there. There's a little bit more body fat there. So it's hard to judge. I would say my ab and thigh was never a bad pose. I've always had pretty well developed abs. So I don't see that pose, you know, going anywhere negative. I think it's gonna look better because my quads are a little bit thicker, and hopefully with having a little bit more development on my lats, when I bring the arms up, it's gonna flare down to my waist and really accentuate that V taper that much more. So ab and thigh, nothing much to say about it. I think it's gonna just continue to look better. And then the last one, most muscular. Now, for those that follow bodybuilding, know that this pose can be hit numerous different ways. You know, there's the hands together like I do, which is more of a display of symmetry. There's the crab, where you kind of bring your arms together, and athletes with really well developed traps, this is a good pose. I unfortunately am not one of those athletes. And then there's another one where you put your hands on your hips. That one I've done actually in shows before, just as like a transition, but my favorite is probably this hands clasped version, just because it kind of shows everything. So looking at my most muscular, you know, again, start from the ground up. Legs, quads probably quite a bit thicker, which is awesome. You know, the midsection again a little blurry, but it'll get tighter and leaner as I do lose body fat. Looking at my chest, never an area that is a weak point at all, so hopefully it's continued to improve. Where I find the biggest hole in this shot for me is that outer tricep, right? So, you know, when my arms are together, there's just not much pop this way around my arm, which is your tricep. So I need to really emphasize that a bit more and figure out movements that I connect with kind of that outer tricep. I have no problem connecting with down here, but it's that outer head that just seems to be an issue for me. So hopefully, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be, you know, pursuing a little bit more arm training over the next little bit, and hopefully see them, you know, come up maybe a little bit through this mini cut, and we'll just see what happens there. So this pose definitely looks better the leaner I get, and you know, looking at the upper half, chest I'm pretty happy with, but triceps and shoulders I think need to be very much improved to make that pose really stand out on stage, because you know, a bigger athlete could very much overshadow me in this pose if they just have a little bit more muscle on their upper body, but always areas to work on. So that's all 8 poses. That's bodybuilding for you guys. So summed up off season wise, we pushed up 30 pounds. We got the heaviest I've ever been, the strongest I've ever been, and I would say for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the progress that's been made. There's definitely more progress that can be made, but for the most part, I think with the what's the word I'm looking for? The time I've had, sorry, I had a brain fart there. The time I've had, and you know, everything going on in the world, I think I've made this as productive as it can be. And you know, I don't have the best genetics in the world. I have okay genetics. Like, I definitely am doing all right, but I think there's always room for improvement, and you know, just kind of chalk this up to, this is my period of time where I made the progress that I have, and you know, hopefully that translates to some good stuff on stage next year. But you know, we've still got lots of time before that, and I hope to continue to make a little bit more progress on some areas where I think can be brought up a bit more. So that's the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. I don't think I've ever done anything like this before, so it was kind of cool just to kind of sit down and look at things and reflect and talk about it out loud, and kind of just get my real opinion on things. So thanks for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and we'll see you guys in the next one.